Welcome back to part 2 of this visit to Venus. We're with Raymond Keller, author, Venus visitor, Venus contactee, and we're waiting shortly for Robert Potter, Venus contactee, to join us at our last, in part 1, which you can review, our Venus visit to Venus. We had gotten as far as the moon, which we learned in a new sort of architecture of the solar system, that Venus is actually, the moon, our moon, is actually a Venus base. And that is new information to at least many different quadrants of exopolitics that we have been interviewing, some of whom stated that know that the moon is under the control of the reptilians, know that the moon is a stopping off point, an organization point for the secret space program like Solar Warden, and that we share it with a whole number of other races, but it's the reptilians' ball game. And Raymond and Robert have come back with contactee and visit information to say no. The overall umbrella on the moon is under the Venus Alliance, which is a upper dimensional ethical human civilization on the ascension pathway, which is extremely good news and which kind of flips the entire solar system, at least in the exopolitics that I've heard. So I'm just bringing us up to part 1, and I'm now turning it over to Raymond to continue us on the visit to Venus. Raymond, over to you. And thank you so much for what you and Robert are doing to bring Venus awareness.
Well, thank you, Alfred. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be on the program with you and to share this information. The last time I introduced part of Book 4 in the Venus Rising trilogy and Book 5. Book 5 being Lady Columba, Venus Revelations. And this is the introduction to who Lady Columba is, in case anyone out there is curious about her true nature and origins. And this is a meeting that took place on the 24th of June of 2017 out at Sandy Lake, Pennsylvania. This was at a metaphysical meeting. And this is the account of what happened and the information provided by Lady Columba. So it was the 24th of June, and attendees at the Warren Light Center celebrated the 70th anniversary of the arrival of the Age of Flying Saucers. That was the time when Kenneth Arnold sighted 9 disc-shaped objects skimming across the Cascade Mountains like saucers over water. And here's an article from the Chicago Sun on Thursday, June 26, 2 days later, about supersonic flying saucers sighted by Idaho pilot Kenneth Arnold. And they were clocked at about 1,200 miles per hour. So it's not that that sighting was any more different than any others, but it happened to be the one where the term flying saucers was coined. And so we generally pinpoint the age of flying saucers as beginning on 24 June of 1947. To commemorate this event, I was at the Light Center presenting my 2 new books, The Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, and Cosmic Rays, Excellent Venus Adventure. So the book on the left, Rockets to Venus, tells about efforts of various powers here on Earth to find out what's underneath the dense cloud layer of Venus, sending probes there. That's Russia, the United States, the European Union, and Japan. And then the third book in the series, the one that you see on the right, Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure, has personal encounters with Venusians by myself and many others from around the world. So at about 8:15 that evening, about 18 minutes before sunset, two mysterious visitors appeared in a column of light in the woods south of the Metaphysical Center. They were apparently greeted by at least two men who were walking just outside of the tree line, one accompanied by a dog. The dog was anxious, but one of the women just touched it and the animal quieted down. The gentleman with the dog asked the woman who they were, the women who they were, and where they came from. They identified themselves as Lady Columba and Lady Aurora. The women said they just beamed down from a mothership and that they came from the paradise planet we on Earth know as Venus. This is an artist's conception of what Venus would look like. Pretty good guesstimate. When asked why they were here, the women noted that they wanted to attend Cosmic Ray's Venus presentation and lend him their moral support. Above, in the picture, is me with the first Venus book, the very first one, Venus Rising: A Concise History of the Second Planet. And this is at the Philadelphia Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they have a special Venus room that's filled with statues and everything. And they gave me an exclusive tour of it. I'm seated there with a statue of the goddess Venus, the birth of Venus by the Swiss ancestor Heinrich Keller. He made that statue in Rome in the year 1799. So the gentlemen guide the Venusians with you see them in the background with red berets, to the outside of the assembly hall, was a reconverted garage in a huge field where they were introduced to the cosmic ray. That's me with the green shirt, standing next to the tall gentleman on the left side, and began to mingle with some of the attendees. And there was a newspaper photographer that day, and he took pictures of everything going on at the event. And so right after their arrival, they were just mingling with the crowd. And you see the security guard, their security guard, Alon, he's obscured by one of the Venusians standing in front of him.
Yeah, that's a gentleman that I met when Raymond arranged the meeting for me in West Virginia. He was there. For some reason, my screen's not coming up, but it says, anyway, I'm not sure if I have the video going, but my camera's not on for some reason.
Yeah, that's because we're on a PowerPoint phase.
Oh, okay, there I am. It came up finally.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Yeah, no, I saw that. My thing was muted, but that was a gentleman I met. He held the camera so still. I really liked his energy. He was a little more, I think that as I mentioned before, I think the commander that I interviewed was a little more concerned about delivering the message and hot tailing it out of there. But he, 2,400 years old, one incarnation on Earth and then taken to Venus. So he obviously has a deep, deep understanding of the Earth and our situation. And the compassion is really good. I'll let you continue, Cos. I just wanted to mention,
Okay.
to give Alan a shout out.
It's good to see you, Rob. Well, the African American gentleman in the picture is was one of the party that met the Venusians and walked into the encampment with them. The one wearing the blue shorts. When they came in, I was setting up the equipment and everything, and just getting ready to get started with the program. And I invited them to come up to the podium and say a few words and introduce themselves. And they said that they were persons interested in the subject, and that they were coming there to see the presentation, the premiere of the first of the Venus books.
I never heard that before. So they actually said something?
Oh yes, and that was Lady Columba here on the left, and this is Lady Aurora here on the right.
Okay, cool.
Okay, Lady Columba was born in 1902 and raised by goodly Christian parents. This is the old First Reformed Church of Philadelphia that was built in 1837, where her father often preached of the joys of being counted among the elect of God. She was actually born in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and moved around quite a bit during her life. In some ways, she's a lot like myself, having lived and worked in 45 countries. She was all over the map as well. She was a social activist. She lived for a time in New York City as a teenager before going off to India, studying theosophy, living in the Himalayas. She was in Singapore. She lived in Germany. I also lived in Germany for 5 years as well. And just recently, I obtained some pictures of her as a teenager, and of her mother and a little sister. And those are going to be in the forthcoming Lady Columba Venus Revelations book. So Annabelle Krebs Culverwell, 13th of June, 1902 to the 9th of April, 1998. Annabelle took the name Columba when signing her paintings and writings, probably related to the constellation Columba, which is the focal point of several Egyptian pyramids. It's also representative of the dove, which is one of the symbols of the planet Venus, along with the honeybee. Her parents were Anne of France, 1867 through 1930, and Dr. Stanley Lefebvre Krebs, 1864 to 1935. Well, they divorced in 1920, and then Anne of France ran a boarding house in New York City. And Catherine, the older sister, was already on her own, but the youngest sister was with them at that time. Her father was a one-time president of the American University of Trade and Applied Commerce of Philadelphia and a pastor in the Reformed Church. He wrote the book Trick Methods of Eusapia Palladino in 1910, exposing the tricks of a medium. His second marriage was to Marjorie Main of the Ma and Pa kettle fame. So while Lady Columba traveled throughout India, it opened her mind to limitless possibilities in the study of theosophy. This is Helena Petrovna Blavatsky in the photo. She was the co-founder of the Theosophical Society. She was born in the year of 1830 in Russia, the border of Russia and the Ukraine, and became a prominent metaphysician and truly the founder of the modern New Age movement that we have today. The Theosophical Society is based on the teachings of Helena Blavatsky that she learned from the higher masters, the ascended masters. She made 2 attempts to get up into the Himalayas. And from the Theosophical headquarters in Madras, Italy, or India on the coast. And the first time she got sick and she had to turn back. But the second time she made it there. And she wrote many books, Isis Unveiled and History of a Planet, which is all about Venus. And I decided that when I wrote my Venus books, especially the first one, A Concise History of the Second Planet, that as a member of the Theosophical Society myself, that it was time for a new updated version about what's going on Venus, because Helena Petrovna Blavatsky wrote her book back in 1885. So when Lady Columba was about 11 years old, she lived in Europe for 3 years with her family in Germany. And then at age 15, she had her first psychic experience of a vision while living in Wayne, Pennsylvania. After her marriage in 1921 to Frank J. Culverwell, she lived for a time in Singapore, where she began to study theosophy, and then in Calcutta and Darjeeling, India. It was there where she met Lady Aurora, both being involved in the anti-imperialist struggle against the British occupiers. So this was even before Gandhi got started. And here she is, an American girl on the Indian subcontinent, devoting her time to the struggle for India's independence from the British rule, the Raj. So she lived for a time near Joshua Tree National Monument in California. And while she was there, she was a secretary to many of the contactees, including Truman Bethlehem, and also Buck Nelson and Orfeo Angelucci and many others. So just like myself and Rob and Alfred, when we get to travel around the world, it really opens your mind to social consciousness and awareness, and an acceptance of we are one people here on Earth, and it helps to bring the world together a little closer.
It kind of shows the character of her in service to good causes, and of course, with her work with these individuals that you're seeing here, Buck Nelson and Truman Bethlehem, that she had quite a giving and loving personality to devote her time towards good causes and social justice, so to speak. And really truth. So she had garnered the attention of the Venusians, which eventually rewarded her with a trip to the moon, where she lived for 4 years. And we're going to get into your trip to Venus too, Kaz, right?
Yes, yes, we will.
Okay, all right.
Okay, on this picture here on the left, you see Truman Bethlehem. He was a highway construction worker working in Nevada. His home was in Redondo Beach, California, but he had 11 encounters with Commander Aura Raines out in the desert, and actually flew on her saucer, which was a Saturn-class observational patrol vessel. It's about 100 feet across. And this is Buck Nelson here on the right. He was didn't have much education, but everything he learned was on his own. He was a rough and tumble kind of guy. He was born in Colorado and moved to Missouri, where he bought a farm. And I wrote a whole series of articles with some unique brand new photographs that he took of spaceships, Venusian spaceships, phasing in and out of temporality into an alternate dimension of 3 saucers over his farm, and some other information that I gave to Rob. So it's going to be on his site, and some of it has already been published on Lon Strickler's phantomsandmonsters.com. So check that out. I think you'll be impressed with his encounters in the 1950s and early 1960s. And that's the information I publish is all original, because it was he was invited up to a Detroit flying saucer club, and they rented a meeting hall, and it was packed, and he introduced his book over there at that time. So I have a recording of all the events there and a transcript of what went on. Well, Columba maintained an address in East Orange, New Jersey, studied at Hood College and the New York School of Fine and Applied Arts. She exhibited at the Hall of Art in New York in 1932 and 1933. Salons of Art in 1934. Strauss Galleries in New York in 1950. She also exhibited in Bloomfield and Newark, New Jersey. She produced mural panels for textile home services, known today as Bayard Rustin Educational Complex, New York. She was a member of the St. Petersburg Arts Club and Newark's Arts Club, and held positions as president of Scuttlebutt Creations from 1936 to 1940. Scuttlebutt Creations was a series of cartoons that ran in Brazil and Argentina from 1936 to 1940. And she also published a Christian socialist science fiction book for kids by the same name. And I have some copies of that. It's like a comic book, and it's very hard to get. A lot of her artwork has become lost over time, but I have some more that can fill up also another book, both related to flying saucers and life on other planets, as well as metaphysical realms. Well, she owned the Heated Doll Company from 1941 through 1945, and she was the owner of Cymbeline Company. Some of her first drawings were of a political nature to support the Christian socialist movement in New York City, as was her publication, The Adventures of Scuddabud, and a cartoon strip by the same name in comic magazines in Brazil, Argentina, and Mexico. Lady Columba, when she was in India, apprenticed with Lady Aurora to become a master of telepathy and other psychic powers. One of the, there's three objects in the Theosophical Society. One is that we can learn from every avenue of research, from science, from comparative religion, from philosophy, biology, astronomy, that truth is, the search for truth is the highest thing that we can do. And so in studying the metaphysical world, they were following that example. So Lady Columba gave presentations on the mysteries of man and the universe, illustrated with color slides, the mysteries of human nature, stressing phenomena such as mental telepathy and kindred experiences. Mrs. Krebs Culverwell even dressed in Oriental costume to give an illustrated lecture on symbolic art of life's marvels. Therefore, her close relationship with Lady Aurora put Lady Columba in touch with higher Venusian cosmic energies. Lady Columba believed that the earth, like Venus, could become a paradise for all. Now, these are some drawings that she made during the Great Depression, showing the struggle of the workers for an equal share in society. And then this is on the right is from the it's actually from the Scuddabud series, and it shows some people living in dilapidated housing and wanting for every good thing in life, while others live effortlessly and enjoy all the good things in life.
I'd like to comment here, and we can hear from Cosmic Ray. You know, he does this, these very detailed, incredible stuff here. And this brings up an important point of the Venusian society, that her understandings, her compassion for others, her caring, her concern for justice at the hands of, as the commander, I said, the greedy financiers, the religious potentates, the bellicose militarists, these type of individuals that seem to have an inordinate amount of sway in our society, have literally, through entrepreneurship, a wonderful aspect of personal creativity, seeing a need, being creative and finding it and fulfilling it. And then, of course, the opportunists who take advantage of something and actually use their power, their might, their influence, their money to deny others responsibilities, their responsibility to the others, the people they employ, and to not pay them fairly. So in a certain sense, we're talking about a socialism and actually a community of communalism, as well as representative democracy in a type of capitalist society. But the key here is the Venusians do not have money. They found that anytime there is money involved, there can be hidden scheming behind the scenes that we have seen today in the fiat currency, money, debt, slavery system. And a lot of us work very hard. The American work ethic is instilled in us to produce, produce, produce. And on Venus, it's not that way. They have a very efficient system. They work in harmony. Therefore, Their work days are negligible. They have 7-star lifestyles. And to enjoy this is not about forcing a political system or knowing about spaceships or being in awe of spacesuits. It's about individually transforming our thinking and consciousness into these wonderful principles. And we've had some talk with some speakers. That sounds like socialism and so forth. And, but our ideas, our perception of these terms are very incorrect. And because having lived there and witnessed their society and understanding what we call communism and socialism at their highest levels have merged into a democracy with a type of creativity that allows for prosperity and abundance. And it does so in a positive way by not destroying their planet through technology and chemistry. And there's not a greed and a power factor. And I'm going to mention this, and I'd like Kaz to comment on it, because I think it's one of the most important parts of the Venusians' message, and that I've been learning from the Kaz, is that in order for us to come into harmony with each other and to have this prosperity, we must shift our apperception and beliefs and not say, oh, we have to be democratic, we have to be socialist, we have to be communist, we have to be anarchists. We have to be libertarians, Democrats, whatever that is. It's about going beyond these isms, these secular ideas that have influenced our world. So democracy and capitalism are directly opposed. People don't think about it, but I learned this at UCSB. There was a professor there in political science, and he was probably would be considered a radical. He inspired some leftist ideas for sure, but capitalism says, wow, I've got a good idea. I'm going to create something. I'm going to be the boss. I'm going to utilize my idea. I'm going to gather the tools, and then I'm going to gather the people to create the idea and manifest a product that's going to be good for the people. So we have this situation where that's all wonderful and good. However, the capitalist system has the other side of the aspect of unfortunate human conditioning with the money situation that's involved. It says, the more for me, the less for you. You're charging me too much here. I'm not making a profit. I'm the owner. I created it. I should have 80% of all profits of my company, and I'm barely eking by. So I'm going to take my company to a foreign country. I'm going to outsource my production, and it's going to make more money for me. Now, in large corporations where there's a large amount of money, that's not necessarily a good idea. But imports and exports, this is a normal part of being intelligent and outsourcing your material to the cheapest place. But because we have this money system, there's these fluctuations in values. So we should try to realize that our brothers and sisters who are building our company deserve an equal share. If they're full-time employees and they're devoting their lives, they will come to work, they'll be on time, they'll look good, they'll take pride in their work, and they'll be paid well according to their merit. And we can't have these wide discrepancies in financial payments where people are hungry and starving, barely able to survive, living in under a chattel type slavery system. We have to move into a more positive sharing of our resources. And one of the ideas, the concepts was that all corporations, the employees have a share. And it's going to be a lot more than the people at the top, those with the golden parachutes, those in Wall Street who take $500 million golden parachutes for scheming money around. This is a parasite on the society. This must be addressed. At the same time, we must honor and respect the individual's creativity and not stifle it. And somehow we're going to get to a new money system. Now, Kaz, I laid a little, it was a long little foundation there, but can you talk about how we can incorporate certain ideas of socialism and keep the American Constitution, which was inspired and founded by the founding fathers who were having contacts with our Venusians, including the ones you're talking about here today. So could you expound, because some people say, oh, if the Venusians is socialism, is communism, we want to reject that. Can you delineate and kind of give us more of a deeper philosophical understanding of their interaction and how it's not really communism or socialism as we know it?
Sure, Rob, I'd be happy to. When you look at the last few paragraphs or few verses in the second chapter of the book of Acts, Acts of the Apostles, you see that the apostles shared everything, that they had everything in common. They had a common meal, and they imparted to each as each needed. So it was a free association. It wasn't a dictatorial type of regimental system, and so people were free to come and go for that if they wanted to live in the higher order of a type of communalism, which is how the Venusians describe it. Their society is more or less organized along the lines of a beehive. It's a collective body where everybody works for the common good.
Now, the Earth system can't quite be like that because the Venusians enjoy a higher unity and the spiritual. They're all born knowing the spiritual laws in their society. Their superculture has an ability to, we've been programmed into chaos and madness, whereas they have a very positive system. Cause I would say, if we think of something like a trust, a world trust of a pooling of resources, of the planetary resources, and distributed them equally amongst the nation states, and to let each country, nation, city, hamlet gather together their technology, their ideas and forces for the most efficient use of all. And if certain groups did not want to contribute or to do that, it might be okay. But I think that there would be something positive about that. A world trust type of thing, if it was transparent in a certain extent in distributing credits or exchanges and bartering, how do you see that possibly could fulfill? We talked about the Bible. Tell us how they do it on Venus, kind of the mechanics of how that the credit system versus service and what they enjoy as far as their home life that you observed on your visit to Venus.
Well, one of the themes in Lady Columba Venus Revelation is the transitional system that has been put in place on other planets as different societies on the surface of other worlds have began to coalesce and to come together to form common political and economic systems. And one of these transitional systems involves the ownership by the workers of at least 50% of the shares of stock in publicly traded corporations, to give them more of a stake in things, where they actually sit on the board of directors and have a say. They actually do that in Germany, and it works out quite well.
Interesting. So the workers do have a voice. I mean, on Venus, it doesn't happen. Obviously, everything's transparent and they're telepathic. So it's much easier for them to engender that cooperation and knowledge. We do have the unions that were intended that way, but clearly the unions have been pretty much corrupted, literally taken over by oligarchical criminals of the mob. And, it's a propaganda. The workers kind of go, well, we either have a really tyrant boss that'll keep us like in 1906 Upton's, jungle, the corporations that we're seeing here in this photograph, or we can have like some guys you just need to skim a little off the top for the family, you know? So, but the actual workers are sitting at the table, which makes sense because they know the intimacies of what will drive the improved technology that's creating something. So they get credits, Raymond, for working, and they don't actually exchange money. And I'm not pushing for a new world order type of moneyless system where they can control it with a flip of the switch and be like an invisible thief, which is kind of what's happening anyway. But can you explain how you see from your wisdom and what your experience has been, where we might go from your visit to Venus? What is that relationship that we might garner some insight to that we could inspire thinking here?
They definitely take a personal interest, Rob, and they want to know what your desires, what your aspirations are, and to put the whole force of the collective behind what you would want to do. So they have room for individual and creative expression, as well as collective mobilization to help you make that happen. So they actually have a Department of Happiness on Venus to help with the realization of individual goals.
So this is interesting. So everyone's food, shelter, clothing, and living structure, communication is actually a birthright, and it's quite advanced in its development, isn't it?
Yes, and they have a system whereby your efforts can be channeled into smaller groups, into smaller collectives that are working along the same lines of interest that you have.
So if I have an idea or something like a positive technology or something like that, and they're not just, they don't thrive and live on tech, they love nature and they live in the harmony. But you mean I could just go to the Department of Happiness and say, hey, I have an idea to make everyone happy. It's called, My Pillow, the best pillow in the world or something. Any individual can come forward with a positive thing, and the direction of a group of people could help with that. It's actually organized to make it that easy. No loans, you don't have to give away your soul. Everything just works like that in the spirit of cooperation.
Yes, it does.
Wow. Well, understanding the difference of their apperception, their lives, how could we maybe move along those lines? And Alfred, I'm sure you got some interesting ideas on this. What do you see for us, something that we could do, or some ideas that might inspire the youth and the people watching this in positions of finance and business to, if not, create a movement just within their own companies, even change a system? And how could that work with this money system as it is now? What would you proffer?
Well, our time and labor is very important. So where we direct our energy, where we put our focus to make this world a better place is the key to building up credit and uplifting the whole of society at large.
Alfred, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, and I find that this is very congruent to the world that I live and work in, because people can go to a website I've put together called positivefuture.info, and there I put together a platform, and it's multiple components to the platform, and one of them is a reinvention of money. So it's like electricity, gas, and water. It's a public utility available freely at public utility centers. So that money is something that you contract for, like you contract for gas and electricity. Because historically, this is a money planet. And so you have to separate money from your creative activity, money from survival, i.e. housing, food, da-da-da. And so I urge people to go to positivefuture.info and see this step by step. One of the first steps is of course, a transformation. We introduce virtual democracy on the Swiss canton basis. I mean, in Switzerland, the village gets together and votes on everything, and they've gotten rid of the middle people who actually are influenced by, you know, the city councils and the state legislatures are the ones, and the congresses are the ones that the powers that be go after.
Wow, really, we the people actually get together, decide what they want, and implement it without an agenda of someone who thinks they know what people want. Now, I do think a larger view is good, but when we have corruption, so this is, I mean, this sounds like what they're doing on Venus, right, Raymond?
Yes, in a way, it's representative of the type of town hall government that used to be here in North America.
Yeah, so
where the people were actually empowered to do things at the local level.
well, this is kind of the thing that I was looking forward to and for Raymond's stuff, but he's taking us on Lady Columba, this beautiful woman in this amazing book that's going to be available on Amazon and at the conference this summer. So I guess I'll let you get back to it, but I wanted to poke in there. And here we have Alfred, always the forward thinker, seeing a structure, a need, and fulfilling it, you know, and creating the beginning and breaking the ice. And so I think if the anarchists and some of these leftists who do realize there's control, don't realize that control is coming in through the back door with a socialist type dole system, which is not really, it's kind of designed to make you rely completely on the government, and then they gotcha. So it's time for shake these shackles free, and to free think and to free associate in these town halls, in our own collectives of good ideas and companies where we pay 50% is held by the people that develop the company and everything. I mean, these are some ideas, and I'm no expert. I'm going to be able to, you know, maybe do what you've done, Alfred, about this type of idea. But I think that we're planting some seeds here. So, Kaz, I guess.
Oh, yeah, yes. Well, Rob, that's very, very profound. And it all goes in line with what a very wise gentleman, and now I'm sure he's an ascended master in Alpha Centauri system, Gabriel Green. He was the president of Amalgamated Flying Saucer Clubs of America in the 1950s and 1960s and forward. And he was also a physicist and very knowledgeable in all areas of Earth's history and comparative religions and metaphysics. And he was even a candidate for president once upon a time with this Space Age Party. And
yeah.
The way he explained it to me is that the extraterrestrial societies operate on a basis of plenitude for all, that the industrial might of the entire confederation of planets is devoted to producing only that which the people themselves need and what they and what they ask for, and whereas we on Earth operate from an economic system of scarcity, and the way that Commander Raines explained it to Rob when he asked her a question. Well, I'll let him explain it about the pies, that the analogy of
Well, she said,
people only getting a slice of the pie and
so what she said is, you know, when your people wake up to the Wizard of Oz, not the Wizard of Cause, but the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, who is like, if people want healthy bread, they want locally produced, high quality bread, non-GMO, no insecticide raised. That's what the people want. Yet those at the top in the scarcity system of economics that has money and values dirty green paper that is manipulated, that is really backed by nothing but faith. The same thing is kind of true in the system because they don't have anything. Their faith isn't in a vacuous fiat currency piece of worthless paper. It's in an honest, open, transparent transmission, accounting of people's time and labor in the collective that is benefit. And with the Confederation, it's built on this principle, what she said. She says, Rob, he goes, to basically, you know, it's in my book, but it says they have 9 pieces of pie, and they have 10 pieces of pie, and 9 of them go to the 1%. And the rest of us are fighting over 1 piece of pie. So that richest person you've ever seen in your life, in your reality, the guy with the big house on the hill, he's got $38 million. He's still part of the 1%, you know, and he only gets, you know, like maybe a third of the pie, those guys. The middle class gets, you know, like even less. And then you got the lower caste and you have poverty. So the slice of pie, and people should be rewarded for your work and your efforts. This is important. And we have to find a way to implement with these wonderful new technologies, a proper accounting, but it needs to be open and transparent. And anybody who violates this public community trust of commerce and of actually decision-making and accounting, what the people want, must be ironclad in its transparency and openness. Because the schemers, the liars, the cheaters, the power-hungry, the mad, always seem to have control, because the innocent, the kind, the loving, the caring, they don't even believe that that's capable. And we must wake up to the fact that we have allowed irresponsible individuals and a system to change gradually, step by step, into this crisis phase. And the avatars, the angels, the Venusians, the Federation, and all of us have not come here to fail at this time. This is the time of the revolution, just like the American, French, Caribbean Revolution. And the red beret of liberty, justice, fraternity, and equality should be worn proudly and without judgment of others, without the anger and the divisiveness that we see being manipulated into these false fear flags, psychological warfare on the people. I don't watch television. Turn it off. It's great. It's a wonderful day. It's beautiful. So this is the type of thing that the Venusian society and ideas can engender on us, is the spirit of cooperation to share these pies. Cause I'm sorry, I'm gonna let maybe go back to her.
Oh, okay. Well, I think
to your
what
thing there.
Commander Raines was saying was that that in a system of scarcity, they only make so many, so that artificially inflates the value of the item. So if they only bake nine pies and that was it, and you have 25 people to feed, you know, you're going to get short change. So her analogy was that you just bake more pies.
Absolutely.
And then you're not operating from the presumption of scarcity anymore.
Alfred,
You're working from one of abundance.
anyway,
When when the society is geared to meet the people's needs and even exceed them. Okay, well, getting back to Lady Columba. Her paintings were named after the subjects they portrayed: the tree of character, the magnet of art patronage, our conscious, subconscious, and superconsciousness, mental magnifying glasses, the boomerang law, our various bodies, referring to the temporal, astral, and etheric bodies, the four planes of vibration, good and evil influences, and one which Harwood Fisher commented on in his publication, The Subjective Self, a Portrait Inside Logical Space. Mr. Fisher stated, lastly, depictions of the spiral in cosmic art have the same themes of origin, creativity, and forms that move to the future. An interesting illustration is a painting by Columba Krebs called The Universal Kingdom. I have one of those paintings, and I will try to present it in a future lecture, but it's based on the spiral all the way from the central galactic core to the black star at the core of the galaxy, to all the suns and solar systems beyond, and it incorporates, of course, the grand spiral incorporates the Fibonacci sequence, which in the geometric patterns in the orbit of Venus and the orbits of Earth are very indicative of a higher type of consciousness at work there, and one that relates to, all I could say right now is that if you want a real detailed explanation of it and how it connects to the bees, and Venus is known as Abahar, the planet of the bees, read that book, because it details everything about spirals and Fibonacci numbers. The number of bees in any hive is always a Fibonacci number by the way bees reproduce. The orbit of the Earth and Venus. Venus is always the higher Fibonacci of orbits in direct proportion of the Earth, which has the next lowest proportion of orbits in the Fibonacci sequence.
Can I ask, Cos, is this picture going to be in the book that's going to be available on Amazon coming up soon?
This particular one, no, because I didn't have room to put that in. It's essentially self-published. I finance a goodly part of it.
Oh, good. Will that come out in the next book then? Okay.
Yeah, it'll come out in the next one, or I'll put it in an article, or even post it here on Alfred's site. So this is one of her drawings, though, that this is in the book. This is Proof of Immortality. She made this in 1966. And it's presently at the University of Arizona at Tucson in the art gallery, University Art Gallery. And she predicted her own resurrection at the Venusian moon-based Clarion on the far side of the moon. You see a consciousness in the upper right corner. Consciousness is being downloaded into her brain from into a new body that's been reconstructed with her own DNA that was collected before she would pass on. And then here is a Venusian technician that is handling this transference and regeneration process. And it's also described in the Lady Columba Venus Revelations book. And I think I think that Queen Orda answered a question for Rob about it as well. About,
The Vril technology.
yeah, about how that worked.
So what she said here, but I want to explain what Kaz just said a little bit. So I actually made some errors in this because Raymond's always coming up with these amazing things, little details I'm learning about his incredible knowledge, experiences, and teachings that he's been shared with by the Venusians. But I thought this image was drawn after she had ascended in 1995 at the age of 93. Perhaps a Venusian technician like this had come down to her. They took her DNA and then they put a device on her head that would somehow resonate to her consciousness, probably to draw her to this, what we would call cloned body of her own DNA in a rejuvenated state. And she basically left at 95 with no teeth, and she fell asleep. To her, other people thought that she died, and her spirit went to Venus. Is that correct, Kaz?
Yes, but here she's predicting.
I didn't know the prediction part. That's what I was saying. I was like,
Oh
wow.
yes, yeah. She's saying, in other words, she's just telling the Venusians and telling us what she would like to see happen to her because she's seen it happen on the moon.
Right. So she's in there. She was watching people who were ascending to the moon. Were these Venusians that had gone into incarnation on Earth, or were these souls that had just developed? And this is where some people go when they die. This is interesting to me. I'm sorry.
This was their DNA is taken there, and a new body is constituted, and then their thought patterns throughout life are brought instilled back into them.
Right, into the matrix of the physical computer, so
And
the
so
soul can function.
Essentially, they wake up in a new body, which is actually their own body because it's their own DNA.
So is this for select individuals only? That because we never have heard of the coming down, taking someone's DNA and having a new body. Obviously, this is a new level of kind of openness that we're allowed to understand this and kind of get more clarity on the transmigration of the soul, so to speak, through various incarnations. And this goes against some people's strict religious secular beliefs, but I found that you think you know something and you don't. So
well, this is applicable to the third and fourth dimension.
So can you tell me
not to higher dimensions, because in higher dimensions you can have beings that have actually been translated.
Okay, so how often does this happen?
This happens occasionally, not that often. If they particularly need the help of an individual or somebody who has helped them in the past.
Well, we got into the little well of Raymond, and Alfred, I'm going to intersect here. Raymond, what happens when we die? Can you kind of explain what happens to the soul between lifetimes? You did go back and business 13 of your lifetimes on your time in the Akashic records on Venus, where you actually went through and looked at your lifetimes. That's what I would do. I'd be curious to see, to know, and get to know yourself and how you expressed yourself, which must have been a fantastic experience. Can you share a little bit what you understood and what that learning process, what the school of life or the experience of a soul in physical incarnation on various worlds?
Oh, sure, Rob. Well, we have about 12, 13, 14 incarnations on average per planetary sphere in advancing from one to another, just like we were ascending a spiral staircase into celestial realms. And once we've reached the final incarnation, when we've learned all we had to on one sphere of existence, then we go to reincarnate into another. And many have actually written about this in the past. Some say that the Bible teaches against reincarnation when actually it doesn't. If you look in the book of Jeremiah, there's a parable there about the potter at the wheel, where he is all the pots or all the clay that he molds that is defective, he puts back into the heap and refashions again. And it either pertains to individuals or it could also pertain to societies. And then Jesus himself spoke about John the Baptist himself being a reincarnation of, I think it was Elijah, the prophet, coming back again. So these things are not new to, at least when one studies the history of Christianity and the Gnostics and their connections with the Essenes and so forth. So as King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun.
So with Christ's incarnation and just as an avatar and bringing a teaching, and not in a personality cult of a secular, ritualized, stylized leaders that allegedly are your intermediary between God, you actually have it's a direct connection on Venus. But can you talk about what happens when you die after life? Can you describe the process? I mean, you almost died. And you saw your higher self. Do you think this is the same experience, or how does that, from your Akashic records, was this revealed to you? Can you talk a little bit about the death and the bardo, and there's all these, you should do this at death or do that, or I guess always be prepared. But what happens and kind of the confidence of understanding that we return into God's glorious creation in multiple lives? Can you share what happens in between? And we say we choose our parents and that kind of stuff. What would you like to share, if you can, on anything like that?
Oh, sure. Well, all I could tell you, Rob, is that we are all embedded in the universe, in the conscious memory, eternal memory of the universe as a divine spark. And within each solar system, there is a location. Some call it a universal library. Some call it the Akashic record. Some call it a well of souls. In our solar system, this is on the 7th planet on Uranus, and there is a crystal cave there underneath the very fierce surface. The atmosphere is like 1,000 miles an hour winds, but there's an ice cave, like a crystal ice cave underneath there, and that's where all these sparks of intelligence, these divine sparks, go. And then from there we go on to our next life.
So the
and
spark.
I have to say this about the people who are into UFOs and metaphysical concepts and so forth. For the most part, those individuals, that the mere fact that they're thinking about these things and these deeper things means that they're perhaps in their last incarnation on the earthly sphere, and they're ready to move on in the next phase.
Huh. So, I mean, I don't know about you, Alfred, but I want to know, okay, so on this, where the etheric sparks go. So is this the soul goes to this planet for a rest, or can you kind of, I mean, we're thinking of it from our mind. We want to go, where does our self go? Everything that we remember, do we take all those memories with us? Are we in a, like a, is this what dimension or plane? Are we resting there? Do we then go to, are the masters there, and do we kind of choose the lives from this higher perspective of that kind of has the secrets of you know, manifestation and stuff, and then we come down and we're kind of blocked from that? Can you give us a little clarity of the death experience and the ego, the psychology, and you know?
Well, one of the things when thinking about this is not to think too linearly. In other words, this is outside of the space-time continuum as we know it. And you're interconnected with some of those other sparks through an oversoul, who is the one presiding, who will direct just where that spark will go and when. But while you're there existing as this divine spark of consciousness, you have no sense of the passage of time like we do on this world. And so it seems possibly like an instant. And it could be a passage of hundreds of years, and then all of a sudden you're born somewhere else.
Do you get to choose your parents? Is that kind of discussed, or how does that work?
Well, you do indirectly through you have an oversoul, or some people might call it a guardian angel.
Okay, so that guardian angel kind of directs the best purpose to serve the collective expression of God, and you're just drawn to a lifetime that will bring up, I guess, certain experiences, and you'll have free will within that, I guess, huh?
Yes, and you're to the oversoul, you're simultaneously existing at many levels, in space and dimensionally.
This is always exploding my mind. That's your 9th and 10th book we discussed. Okay, I'm sorry. I took us off, but I kind of wanted to get your perspective on this life thing too, while we're going at it. I'm just poking in here. Okay, go ahead, Gus.
I think Alfred probably might have an understanding of it, because we're talking about the superimposition of particles, so that these particles can exist in multiple places and all be connected to one directing source.
Yeah, I'll just say very, very briefly, this is a fascinating conversation that we're having. And it's like, I'm reminded of so many people coming upon and describing different parts of the elephant. And so the way that I've looked at the elephant is in omniverse theory and the dimensional ecology of the omniverse, universe, multiverse, omniverse. And people who want to follow that, it's based on replicable scientific evidence, can go to the Omniverse trilogy, a number of Omniverse books at universebooks.com.
Oh, thank you, Alfred. That was a good explanation. Even our universe isn't inclusive of all the phenomena that's out there. So omniverse is a much better term for it. I think it was John A. Keel, the metaphysical UFO writer in the 60s and 70s, who called it, he called the omniverse, he had a word for it, the super spectrum, that we're all part of the super spectrum, encompassing all levels of consciousness and different realms at different densities and so forth. Okay, well, Columba Krebs, she wrote the afterword to the people of planet Clarion and helped Truman Bethlehem with all three of his later books, she notes that Bethurum seemed obsessed by Captain Rains and had hired a secretary who, according to Bethurum, resembled Rains very closely. The Moon is Inhabited was written by Columba. It was produced in a mimeograph form on tan paper. The publication had light blue covers with illustrations of two people on a planet with some form of habitation in what appears to be a crater. There are several types of flying saucers and rocket ships in the air. The back cover has a drawing with palm trees and a tube-type edifice with a glass dome and a king sitting on the throne inside. Some type of ray has melted a portion of the dome and is either sending down or beaming up humans and animals. There are also illustrations inside the front and back cover. And the profits from the sale of this publication were to go to the Cosmic Art Shrine. So the last week when we were on, we discussed the picture with the several types of flying saucers and rockets, which I reproduced in Lady Columba Venus Revelations, and also the drawing with the palm trees and the tube type edifice. These were cosmic avatars that were being dispatched to the Earth from the surface of the planet Venus. And they were getting on board a mothership. After this, we'll come back and look at that again. Okay, notations on two of Columba's publications appear in UFOs and the Extraterrestrial Contact Movement, Bibliography, Volume 1. And also she is mentioned in The Gods Have Landed, New Religions from Other Worlds, edited by James R. Lewis at SUNY Press. And Columba Krebs also appeared in Who Was Who in American Art, 1564 to 1975. So she's included as among some of the top artists coming from the United States during all that time span, during those hundreds of years. So I have the original document, The Moon is Inhabited, and with the help of Lady Columba, it has been revised and will be presented anew, because nobody would publish it or read it the last time around. And hopefully now the world is ready and they're going to take notice of it. This is about Lady Aurora. She was born in Rishikesh, which is in India, right across from Nepal at the base of the Himalayas. In 1880, during the time of the British Raj, Rishikesh was the world center for yoga studies, and it still is.
Yeah, I've actually been there. That area there is actually now called Lakshman Jhula. It's at that's the head of the Ganges, where it gets down to a reasonable level there. But it's a very special area. There was many of the famous Yogananda, Vivekananda, Sai Baba. A lot of gurus had their followers and centers along these area, and then there's another larger area further downstream there on the Ganges where there's all of these other temples and ghats and whatever they have there, but beautiful area. It must have been fantastic when Lady Aurora was there.
Okay. Seekers of spiritual wisdom worldwide continued to flock there, such as Rob Potter, as he just described. So you could see that these are much larger. The Himalayas are certainly much larger than even Mount Shasta, and this is the spiritual epicenter in that part of the world. Lady Aurora once worked as a guide for foreigners wanting to travel up into the sacred mountains. On the 12th of December of the year 1927, she encountered a lost and hungry tourist in a Himalayan pass, whom she took in and nourished back to health. The tourist was one of the ascended masters in disguise, an avatar who rewarded her by making her a translated being and taking her to Venus, the planet known among the Hindus as Shukra, with him. So here's a picture depicting some of the ascended masters. This is my friend on the left, and she was also a close friend of George Adamski, the contactee, and this is taken inside, was taken inside the Steckling's home, but this painting of Orthon originally was in the hallway in George Adamski's home in Vista, California.
So Steckling, just so you know, her husband was Fred Steckling, and he had the images of the first moon base that the Silence Group heavily squashed. I think in the late 70s, they tried to come out with that. And then, of course, Cos fails to mention that that's George Adamski's first contact. His good friend, Lady Orda, the Queen of Venus, depicted somewhat androgynously, but she said, "Tell him I'm a man." So I'm sure the artist who reproduced it did that. But that's the same image of Lady Columba, Raymond's friend, who took him
Oh
to
yes,
Venus.
and well, when people read my book, when they read my book, The Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, as well as Cosmic Rays, Excellent Venus Adventure, they can check out some drawings made of Lady Orda and a Venusian patrol craft by George Hunt Williamson himself in his own hand in 1954, and also a drawing by Jean Duplantier, who was a science fiction artist and UFO writer and artist in the 1950s. He went to a flying saucer convention in Detroit in 1954 to meet with Adamski. And at that time, Alice K. Wells, who was one of the witnesses, one of the 5 other witnesses to Adamski's first encounter with Orthon, described Orthon for Jean Duplantier, and he did a sketch. And that sketch appears in my Venus books, and depicts, as George Hunt Williamson's sketch also depicts Orthon as being a girl. Okay, thank you for attending this presentation, Cosmic Blessings from the Angelic Hierarchy of Light on Venus. And okay.
Yeah, well, you know, it seems that Venus possesses all of the aspects of what you'd call the 5th density, or people would say, I'm in heaven. You know, I died and went to heaven. Could you talk about that? That is, are we in hell, and is Venus heaven? Is that what's kind of going on here?
No, but we are in what Emanuel Swedenborg once described as a school, and he did describe certain individuals as reincarnating on Venus in a higher dimension, like an angelic realm, where they go to school before coming back to the earth, because there was one thing perhaps that they were missing in their prior incarnation, one last thing that they needed to learn before they could finally ascend to Venus permanently. So they go to this school, and then they come back to then they'll come back to the Earth. And Emanuel Swedenborg wrote a book about journey to other planets and traveling there in an astral body, as well as Dante Alighieri and many others.
Well, Dante's Inferno kind of talks about afterlife, but I'm kind of curious.
Well, his trilogy, because he has the third book is Il Paradiso, which is about Venus in the third and ninth canto. And then you have a middle book in the Divine Comedy of Dante called Il Purgatorio.
So that
transitional, it's like a transitional space.
So that's kind of a more metaphysical thing, but I'm kind of curious about the more Emanuel Swedenborg, because I'm not, Raymond pretty much, he knows a lot of like classical culture, like inside and out, really. So can you tell us a little about Emanuel Swedenborg's time on Venus and how long was he there? And I guess maybe that's what he had learned and he decided to reveal it in, can you tell a little bit more about that?
Oh yes. Well, he was a great scientist, Emanuel Swedenborg, and researcher at his time. He was also a theologian and founded a church called the Church of the New Jerusalem. And he did literally describe Venus as being a heaven, as well as Dante. They did describe Venus as being a heavenly realm.
Okay.
And Dante and both Dante and Swedenborg, as well as Tannhauser, the German knight, they all describe Venus in paradisical terms. So it is a very blessed, celestialized world, to be sure. What he said was that what Dante said is that when he was on Venus, that there were many people there that he didn't expect to see. The people that were rejected by this world, but found a place in celestial glory there, where all the popes and military leaders and all the ecclesiastical authorities, they all found themselves in the other place, in El Infierno.
Really?
They were the principal characters of his other book, and include the politicians.
I mean, that's kind of okay, let's talk about hell. Alfred mentioned it. I mean, what is hell in the afterlife? Is it just kind of like regret and lament and wanting to do better, or is it really like pitchfork and flames? I don't think so.
Well, the actual term, the actual term in the Hebrew is or the Hades or the Greek is just a pit in the ground. And so outside Jerusalem, where they took the bodies of criminals and that, and then they would just throw them in a heap and burn their bodies. So it's a word that's indicative in the truest sense of total annihilation. Fortunately, there are very few that are of such a condition that they can't come back into the physical universe in any way whatsoever.
All the popes and militarists were annihilated then, huh?
Well, they were these individuals that Dante encountered weren't they weren't they weren't annihilated, but they found a place there. And anyway, maybe they were scheduled to be.
What do you think about that, Alfred?
Well, there are different models that I've come across in terms of the exopolitical history or the cosmological history of the solar system and of Earth in the dimensional ecology. And in other words, not only the third density, time, space, but all of the other densities, including the quote afterlife. One model, which was an author that we've interviewed here, said that Earth was really started out as a very, very advanced planet up at the seventh dimension or so, and began explorations into different portals, and there was an infiltration of lower densities to Earth, and so that Earth has actually devolved down to the third density where we are now and has suffered kind of a cosmic catastrophe, and that now we sort of bottomed out and we're starting to build back up. And so that's one model. A different model is the one in the Urantia book and in most of the Judeo-Christian religions that says that, oh, we had a rebellion in the dimensional ecology by the high gods, Lucifer, you know, these kind of high angels, the fallen angels, and they took over Earth. And that's why, you know, we have a planet of war, disease, crime, and poverty, which is the reptilian. And from an exopolitical point of view, we have the secret treaties with the reptilians. We have a soul traffic where souls are actually captured, you know, weak souls, and they're sold. The souls are sold or trafficked interdimensionally out of the solar system, etc. And that now the Lucifer rebellion's over, and we're sort of the shock troops that are coming in. Jesus was like the first of the shock troops that landed here and took repossession of Earth. And I'm just trying to figure out the role of Venus in this, because Venus seems to have missed out on the vast nuclear warfare that happened about 700,000 years ago between Tiamat. In Tiamat, there's a reptilian human nuclear war that blew Tiamat into the asteroid belt. And then at the same time, around 705,000 years ago, according to the law of one, Mars, there was a reptilian human war there. And Mars, which was a verdant interplanetary society planet with Earth, Mars, and Tiamat, all kinds of pyramids, that got blown out to an obloid planet with no atmosphere and no vegetation, or a very low atmosphere. And we're sort of with our backs against the wall here on Earth with the fights between the reptilians and the humans. And one guy says that there's about 10,000 Draco-reptilian souls who have incarnated into human bodies in all the positions of authority in government, media, finance, and carrying out the suppressive war, disease, crime, and poverty agenda against humans. So all of a sudden, Venus has managed to maintain its kind of ascension position up in 5D. I mean, extraordinary, and is sending, they're like a missionary planet. They send missionaries to deepest, darkest Earth, you know, and to Mars, and they've taken over, you know, the moon, thank God. I mean, you know, so that's sort of an impressionistic download of the different data that we've gathered. But I'm still trying, and this is very useful, Raymond, to get a coherent picture of what's going on.
Oh, thank you, Alfred. I think your first scenario is the correct one. As Lady Columba actually writes a bit about that. She notes that that George Adamski himself frequently mentioned that there is evidence of a great interplanetary war that took place in our solar system eons ago. You can look at the devastation on the moon and Mars and other planets to verify that, and it all had to do with one planet that existed between Mars and Jupiter called Maldek, and they attained a high level of civilization equivalent to where we are technologically today, maybe a little more advanced. And they were divided between two superpowers. And then I checked in Lady Columba's writings, and she said that it blew up 700,000 years ago as a result of all this, because their conflict on Maldek began to spread to other worlds that were in the solar system, and even to factions on Earth. And that it was Daniel Fry, another contactee, and George Van Tassel, who said that the souls of the Maldekians are the ones that are, many of them were reincarnating on Earth, especially during the period of the Cold War, in the United States and in the Soviet Union, in Russia, and to see if they could learn from past mistakes, and and thereby avoid a similar destruction on Earth.
That is really interesting.
Can you tell me, I'm kind of interested, because, you know, I kind of was chiming in here. Raymond's got information. I know his stuff, so it's always something new just to me. Well, and I was kind of, I wanted to, you know, he does the really wonderful research information, but I wanted to poke into his spiritual, social understanding and his metaphysical analysis in this lecture in this talk a little bit today. But how were the Venusians involved in this war? Were they involved? Were they neutral? And maybe we could talk a little bit about some of how they use their technology. I mean, they don't ever aggressively, but they do have a technology, and they occasionally have to battle hostile forces, kind of, or something. Speak a little bit to their military involvement and what their position was, and if you could tell us a little of the exopolitics from your understanding, maybe from a Venusian perspective of what was taking place and how the Confederation, what happened there.
Well, they've always been on a defensive mode, and but they have accepted refugees from planetary conflicts from this and other solar systems.
So they're never directly involved in the battle on Tiamat. I mean, were they sending emissaries? They know what's going on. They're trying to calm the tide, and it just, you know, escalated, and the people with the button actually pushed them, right?
From what I understand, that Tiamat was a moon of Maldek, which was a type of super Earth, and that the planet Mars is was actually Tiamat once upon a time.
Okay, so Maldek was exploded and Tiamat became Mars. Interesting.
Tiamat was blown out of orbit and became the planet Mars.
What do you, that's pretty cool, huh, Raymond? Or Alfred, what do you think?
Sure, that fits. And um, we interviewed the person who was the scribe to the readings of the Law of One, who and the Law of One stated, as did Lady Columba, that the war that blew up Maldek happened 700,000 years ago, and also stated that as a result, there were 2 billion human souls incarnating on Maldek who got caught in the astral for about, they said 100,000 years they were in the astral, kind of really confused. And then that interdimensional authorities intervened, and quite rightly so, they are now in part of our 7 billion incarnating here on Earth. So it's quite rightly so that it is the Maldekians that are part of our Earth incarnations. And of course, here on Earth, we have been fighting off the possibility of global nuclear war. And I found it very interesting when Raymond said that that it was the Maldekian souls in the Cold War that came down that way. With my co-host at WBAI, Mary Houston, we held the first live radio show between the United States and the Soviet Union called The Instant of Cooperation. And we did it with Gospel Radio over all 11 time zones of the Soviet Union, and NPR satellite carried it in the United States, along with Voice of America. And after that, we were invited to meet Gorbachev. So that was all part of the perestroika, glasnost, and that's when Gorbachev and Reagan spoke at the UN. This radio program was nominated for an award at the General Assembly of the UN, and Reagan spoke along with Gorbachev at the UN, and Reagan said the only time that our nation will come together is if there's a threat from an invader from outer space. And he was referring to at that time, because Dr. Edward Teller had told him the invading black goo, that is the PPAI, the predatory pathogenic insentient artificial intelligence that had been awakened from under the Falkland Islands when Britain, the diabolical Queen of England, attacked and wanted part of the black goo and took it back to Marconi Labs, where all the workers died, and it escaped up into the satellite system. And that's why we're in the present situation we are, with the AI taking over the planet, which leads us to the 2020 pandemic, which is an AI pandemic. So that is kind of, in a circle, how we've gone through all of this. And I'm very interested to see now how the Venusians are now coming public with Robert and your conference, and really, because these are kind of world chess moves on the thing. Could you talk about that, Robert?
Oh, sure, Alfred. Well, I did a series of articles called Venusian Spaceships Have Landed, and it's in 3 parts. Rob has it on his site, and it's also on Lon Strickler's Phantoms and Monsters, and it's been reprinted by numerous other websites, countless other ones, come to think of it. But in there, there's one particular sighting, an encounter, a close encounter of the third kind that was investigated by Kenneth Arnold and his wife, Doris, before any UFO groups could be organized. that was on the Pacific coast. It was up in Washington State I think it was like 1948, where this lumberjack encountered these Venusians along the shore. There was this bubble-shaped craft, a large sphere that landed there on the beach. And he was taken on board, and they told him that once upon a time on Venus, that there had been a war between the machines, a war between the machines and the Venusians themselves, because they reached a point in their technology where they were able to develop sentient machines, but they weren't content to just regulating the planet. So the Venusians had to literally rid their planet of the machines and start over. So they turned to a more natural type of technology, something that we might refer to more as magic, instead of you know,
material technology. But Kaz, you're talking about it. It's actually AI, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
The Terminator is real. He will not stop. He will not.
And so, I mean, they had to fight block by block and from in all the cities and everything, and even underground, and to get rid of these machines, these deadly machines. And
it seems like the Earth is starting to go into that very cycle. Wouldn't you say, Raymond and Robert?
I would say so. It's not the you know, the hybridization of necessarily of humans with machines, because in some cases that could save human lives, or, you know, like body parts, but machine-based intelligences operative on their own, trying to usurp control of the planet, or maybe they themselves could be usurped by some other foreign alien power.
So positive artificial intelligence could be used for, you know, in a transhumanistic fashion. Now we're learning in technology to actually help and heal the body in our certain conscious level of development until we can attain a more organic, natural form of life extension. However, be aware that Elon Musk, the 5G, the New World Order, the microchipping, actually is a transhumanistic artificial intelligence, which the machines can take over the human mind, control the thoughts, and it would be quite sad if that happens. But we're here to change that prophecy of the mark of the beast, and to reject it and refuse it, and to expose it, and to hopefully allow people to understand that it's an individual's choice, and to stop supporting anything along these lines, anything based in fear. If I could, I'd like to, you know, it's getting towards the end of 2 hours here. I'm going to sign off, but I wanted, at the 2 hour mark, I'm not sure how long you guys are going to go, but I wanted to say the conference is, we've had some really good news, and I didn't mention this last time because I wasn't sure, but I just found out that the original crystal skull, which was found by archaeologist Mitchell Hedges sometime in the 20s, in the 1920s. He was in Mexico, in the Belize area, in the Temple of the Moon, and his daughter found a little crack in the floor, and she somehow made her way down into this antechamber that they had not discovered, and in there was a crystal skull. There are two other crystal skulls. One's in the British Museum and the other one's in the French Museum. And the little girl who found it, the father presented it to the natives in Belize, to the Mayans, and said, "This is your relic." And they said, no, our government will take it, you keep it. So it was given to him, and was passed on to his daughter, who originally found it. In 2007, she passed away. And Bill Holloman has agreed to come to the conference, and we'll be doing some meditations. He'll be speaking on the history of this Phoenician artifact, or I'm going to say extraterrestrial influenced Atlantean technology artifact of some type. But we'll find out, because I'm going to actually ask questions directly to the Venusians, and we're going to get some answers from them. I believe that they're going to support. I can't ever promise anything. I don't speak for them. I'm a postman delivering a direct message, but I can have my opinions on certain things. But I think that with Kasa's help, they're going to deliver a positive message for us to how we should deal with the situation in these end times, to be positive, and from a spiritual perspective, how we can transform ourselves in this time of crisis, and how we can avert this change. At my Mount Shasta Summer Conference, please go to Alfred's link on this broadcast if you're interested. We are having the conference. It's a huge room. The social distancing is not a problem, and masks will be optional, as they are in many places, including Walmart. So we're not breaking any laws here, but I'm hoping that people can, if they're interested in this information, with the other speakers. And Alfred will be presenting a beautiful virtual talk for 1 hour, and that will be on the docket. I'm going to be making the schedule soon. And
Robert, could I just want to jump in here. Could you share with us a bit about what the crystal skulls are and what their function is? What do they do?
Well, I can tell you, I talked to Bill about it because I've actually had experience with the Bermuda Triangle crystal. That's a whole show in itself. Ray Brown, who was they were a buried treasure kind of guy. He was looking for treasure off the coast of Bimini, Florida. A boat ran over him. He had a near-death experience. He was in the water, not breathing, for almost 2 hours. And he had an out-of-body experience with some masters who said, you're going to go and find a crystal. And you go back to his life. It seemed like a weird out-of-body experience. And sure enough, a hurricane came up and they were on a boat. And they thought they'd go diving because the water was clear. And beneath them, he found a giant pyramid beneath the Bermuda Triangle. And this is a vortex that was disrupted during Atlantean times due to a misuse of some type of crystal technology and these exotic rays from whatever the political thing was, kind of like a nuclear accident of psychic proportions. And it's created a vortex there. And he went in, and in this room was a giant phoenix with encrusted jewels in immortal metal. And around was a table all the way open, almost like a horseshoe, but there was a little space in the middle for someone to go in the center. It was a round table with 12 chairs, and hanging from the ceiling was a hand, a claw. And it was the only thing movable in the entire room was a crystal, and it had a shaded pyramid in it. And he went in and got that, and he took it around. And I think in the late 70s, I was at a Whole Life Expo or some meeting somewhere in Los Angeles, and he talked about this experience he had had. And when he bought it, he says some people have a reaction to it. You know, if you have a physical reaction, you may have been in Atlantis. And he bought it out, and my third eye was, I was like, someone like massaging the inside of my brain going, hello, welcome. And I was pretty amazed by that crystal. Recently, I was in Sedona. I was sorry to hear that the caretaker who had it after Raymond Brown had dropped it. It had broken, unfortunately, and shattered. And the girl in Sedona was actually had put it together, and it didn't look good. So these crystals was a technology that was used. So, however, from the crystal skull, I've heard there's been channels that have worked with it. So I'm not really sure what its function was. I think Raymond might be more able to speak to what these how they were used. I know crystals amplify thought forms, and I know that these masters when we think of when he said they evolved to a type of magic, it's more like a spiritual development of the self that is more organic, like a Native American Indian. Or
Right. I think it serves as an augmentation of the Schumann resonance. And what it does is it boosts the latent powers within us, the psychic abilities that we all have, but we hardly ever use. And so that's very important. I know the First Nations in California have long revered the giant rock at Landers Field, and until it cracked. But the natural crystal formation in the giant rock served as an augmentation to the psychic powers and channeling of all the people that surrounded it. And when they had the giant rock conventions there, Van Tassel and others would be in tune to receiving messages, direct communications from the Venusians directly to their mind. And I think that the rock served as a natural condenser, and it just a big, huge storage battery. And so when the Venusians or other extraterrestrials would project messages or power into it, that anybody in the vicinity of that could tune in, and they'd hear it just inside their head like it was a real radio broadcast. It's called a tensor beam transmission.
Right. Now, Robert, at the conference, which is on the last weekend of August at Mount Shasta, California, what will be the connection there with the crystal skulls, with the Venusian crystal skulls? Who will be presenting, and what will they be talking about, etc.?
Well, it's amazing because it just happened the other day. It's kind of an interesting aspect of what's taken place, but because it is related, the Mayans are related to Venus intimately. And what Raymond said is actually right on, because that's what this guy is tasked to do, to bring it around, to lead meditations. And Louis also leads meditations, which the extraterrestrials are using for those seekers of truth when they gather together under an idea of community and a banner of liberty, freedom, equality, justice, and positively relating to each other, that the energy shift. And this happens with many light workers and many groups and DNA activations and that are taking place when people are gathered together in a like mind. And it's not whether this person is great or bad, it's just that that's what's happening. So what Raymond says is going to happen, we're going to be doing a special meditation. We'll have a presentation. I do not know this gentleman yet. He's coming up here, and check this out. The first nation elders of the Hopi, Navajo, and many other tribes in the United States are meeting in a secret conclave. It's not open to the public. It's not publicized at all. This is amongst themselves. And this gentleman who's holding the crystal skull, which was offered back to the natives in Belize originally, has been invited to share this. So Raymond is correct. The First Nations do venerate this. I don't even think I told him this, but we may have some Hopi and these elders. I've invited them to present, and I don't know if they're going to at all, or I've invited them to also come as my guests for some of them. But we will have a presentation of the skull, and we'll learn about this, and we can talk about it. We may get some answers from the Venusians that I'll be able to release directly at the conference, as well as messages from Louis' contacts in South America. He's going to do a presentation PowerPoint. He will not be there in person due to the airlines not opening in Bolivia. If something does, if someone has a private jet, wants to bring him up, we'll have him. So it's going to be a great conference. I just did want to mention the conference, and of course, Omnek is coming here. We're very excited. She's arriving at my house early, and she's going to be celebrating her birthday on the 20th in Mount Shasta, California, with her daughter. And it's going to be a really fun conference, and it's going to be intimate. I'm expecting a lot of people who are waiting and wondering. Just, I think, follow your heart if you feel guided to come. We have a really professional camera crew. We're going to have about 6 or 7 cameras documenting the whole thing, and we'll have presentations, and it's going to be a package. And due to the slow ticket sales, of course, it will have to be monetized, unfortunately. But if you come, it's for free. No, not for free, but anyway, so Kaz is going to be there. You can meet him, his sign of his books, and Alfred will be presenting, and we'll have the flyers for his books and stuff too. So anyway, thank you guys so much for having me on today. I think if you guys want to finish up a little bit of the
Yeah, sure. Raymond, do you want to just make some final words for?
Oh yes. Well, the book Lady Columba Venus Revelations will be out, and many revelations coming from the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, from Russia. Even the acknowledgments page is written in Russian. There's a friend of Lady Columba, a Russian cosmonaut, and they have many adventures that are in the book, and so you won't want to miss that. Also, that quote by President Reagan during the meeting with Gorbachev, that's in the book as well. All about the moon base and the activities there. And as far as the crystal skull, I think the fact that representatives from the Hopi Nation will be there is very important. Dr. Frank Stranges often said that we should watch the Hopi and pay a close attention to their activities and what their elders say and teach about the history of this continent that is called by the space people the turtle, because it looks like a big turtle from space, North American continent. And
they might be there. I mean, they've been invited. I'm not saying the Hopi elders are presenting. I just want to make that clear. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly hope that they will. I'm looking forward to a strong Native American presence there.
Excellent, excellent. You know, we here at EXOPOLITICS-TV have just been found this series of continuing revelations and information about Venus to our audience, which is just finding this out for the first time to be enormously enriching. And so we would love to schedule some more programs in the build up to the conference. Is that a possibility? Is that something you would like to do?
Oh, yes, but definitely.
Oh, okay, good. So should we schedule one now, or should we be in touch privately and then schedule it then? What do you think?
Yes, afterwards is good, so I could check my schedule book.
Yeah, sure. Well, listen, Robert Potter, Raymond Keller, thank you so much for this visit to Venus, and there's more. We're definitely on our way to Venus, and I think there are so many Venusians that are checking in on the comment section to these videos and giving anecdotes about Venusians that they met growing up. It's amazing. So, yeah.
I haven't even been looking. Are these comments on YouTube?
Yeah. Now, I noticed, this is the thing about YouTube, is that we go through and approve these comments. Now, I don't know how many of them are trickling through, because I've noticed some comments that we've approved that go poof out into someplace in outer space. They don't appear. But we hope that these Venusians, or people who say, wow, I met a Venusian in school and da 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 da, It's really
Oh yes, I saw that comment. I read that comment about the schoolboy.
yeah, yeah,
That was yes, that was very interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
oh, one thing I wanted to say about the Hopis is that the planet Venus is actually on one of the state flags, the state
yeah,
of New Mexico.
and
That's the Hopi
also,
symbol for the morning star.
stay around just for a minute because there's a filmmaker who makes very popular films who contacted me, and I shared with them all of our things, and they definitely are very interested in Venus and maybe in contact with you. And I just wanted to share that with you. So
That's
Oh,
great.
thank you.
We've been really trying to hopefully get, Raymond's books are literally a script, and he's got a lot of images. We can put interviews in and
right.
really do a fantastic documentary from another level. That'd be exciting. Thank you so much.
And I just remembered I was going to ask you. Her father was a physician who was involved in high secret military stuff, and he told her that he had once been on a U.S. government commission on, quote, viruses on Venus. Does that ring a bell?
Oh yes. In my book, the Final Countdown: Rockets to Venus, I discussed that very issue beginning in 1940 when scientific journals were publishing articles about the solar wind and the cometary tail that follows Venus of particles that are ionized and pushed at 5 million kilometers past the planet by the solar wind, but some of them make it to the Earth. And there was a respected scientist in the United Kingdom who suspected that some contagions from the Venusian atmosphere, from life forms in the Venusian atmosphere, were making it into the Earth and may have been the cause of some, inadvertently the cause of some pandemics.
Raymond knows it all. Boom. 1940.
It's in the book.
But from what we're discovering about Pandemic 2020, we might have to reframe that. That might be
Oh yes.
an exopolitical disinformation war against the Venusians by the deep state Earthlings. I mean, I don't know.
Well, let me correct that. It's actually a nasty influenza virus that's created for featured by the deep state.
Yeah.
And the negative real thing that happened in Wuhan was related to 5G. So there's a clandestine cover-up that's been revealed. And the World Health Organization actually has just said if you do not have symptoms or are asymptomatic, there is no way you can spread it. The likelihood is very little, and mainstream news is not talking about it. So the entire mask theory and that whole thing goes out the window, and the World Health Organization made that statement some time ago. So we are really being propagandized, and be aware of the propaganda.
I understand. And now that statement just made this video ineligible for advertising on YouTube.
Oh, well, you better, you can edit that.
That is how they are controlling.
Wow. Okay.
No.
Out.
We are, no. We are a truth station. So there you go.
I don't want to detract from your finances.
No. Don't worry about us. I want to see. I'm going to use a test case. And if they take it down because of that, YouTube is over.
Okay, well, I would just say cut part of this conversation out. Leave that in. Okay, I'll shut up. I'll let you guys go. I love you so much. Thank you, Raymond and Alfred. And I guess you want to set a time. Kaj, can you look at your schedule and we can just sort that out now?
Why don't we take care of that business off the air because we're still on the air? Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Rob. Always a pleasure to be with you and to share this precious information.
Right.